Hey, what's up? Welcome to Stata Tech. My name is Jerad, and today we're going to take a look at my iPhone XS Max setup. And so we're in a different spot. Typically we have that I'm sitting in front of a green screen with things going on. I'm making some changes to my office, and just that means having things in disarray. So my iPhone brings me peace, and the setup and the consistency there definitely helps. And I wanted to talk about that because people are always asking me, what are some of the apps that you use? What are some of the settings and the adjustments and stuff that you make to your phone? Like, how do you set it up to make it the best possible device for you? And so I thought, well, let's make a video and figure that out. So we're gonna start with settings, because the settings on my phone definitely can either make my phone become a huge distraction in my life or actually make it an effective tool in my life. And so the first thing that I, of course, always do, because I don't like to be interrupted by ringtones, notifications, and stuff like that, is I slide this little slider on the side, this little switch, down towards the back of the phone, which puts it in silent mode. And I almost never, unless I'm playing a game or something like that and audio won't come through otherwise, I almost never switch it in a different direction. Now, the reason, like I said, is because I just don't want distractions. I don't like my phone ringing and then I have to find it or whatever. People do that, and that's fine. You know, maybe they need the ringer, they're expecting a call or something, but for me, it's a distraction, and I try to avoid as many distractions as possible. So let's actually go into the settings app. So the settings app is where we're going to change a lot of things, make some adjustments so that our phone is optimized. And the first thing that I do is make sure that iCloud Backups is on. Now, these days, because iCloud Backups have been around for a while, every time I get a new phone, I restore from an iCloud Backup so that my phone comes across with all the settings and all the apps and everything that I had on my previous phone. But I still want to make sure that iCloud Backups are running, because if I ever lose my phone, it gets broken or damaged. Last year, if you watched my video, I had an iPhone take a swim. Actually, I took it for a swim and it failed on me miserably. And so I had to take advantage of that iCloud Backup, and thankfully I had one that was only, I guess maybe about 8 hours old. And so I didn't lose any data because I had my iCloud Backups running. So tap on iCloud and check out what you've got going on here. You'll want to scroll down to iCloud Backup and make sure that that's toggled on. Now, if it is toggled on already, it'll tell you when your last successful backup was. Your backups are often going to run when your phone is connected to Wi-Fi and power. So Wi-Fi and power are two things that you're going to need in order for those backups to run. Of course, you can always tap that backup now button and then it will back up right now regardless of what you're connected to. But I recommend doing that over a Wi-Fi connection so that it doesn't eat up a ton of your data. So the next thing that I do is go back to the main settings screen and I go into notifications, and I customize the notifications that come through in apps that I know are going to be distracting. Now, the reason that I do this is because I don't need, like, whenever somebody likes a photo of mine or comments or something like that on Instagram, I want to see those and respond to them, but I don't want that to happen in real time. I might be sitting here at my desk trying to get things done, and my phone is constantly beeping or vibrating with notifications, and if that's happening all day long, I'm not being productive. I'm not getting anything accomplished because I'm always wanting to check what's going on my phone. And so I go in and customize notifications on most of the apps that are going to do that. So for example, if I go down to Instagram, I just flat out have those turned off. I'm not getting any Instagram notifications on my phone. And I know some of you are gonna freak out over something like that. You want those notifications, you don't wanna miss out. But I'm here to tell you that it's fine. I set time throughout my day to go and check those things. I'll check them in the morning once I get to the office. I'll check them maybe when I finished my lunch. I'm kind of sitting there just relaxing for a few minutes. And then I'll check them again in the evening. That way everybody who's commented or contacted me or tagged me in a photo or something like that, which isn't really that often, I'm not that popular, I can respond to those and be aware of those. And then even check and see what everybody else is up to and comment on their stuff. But I'm doing that at a scheduled time. I'm not doing it periodically throughout the day, unexpected and interrupting my day. So I definitely go through and toggle some of these off. And that's a process that changes all the time. Like, you know, I have Facebook off. Some of these other apps don't really send notifications, so I haven't bothered going in and changing them. There really is no way to mass shut off all the notifications anymore. There used to be, but Apple took that away because they want us looking at our phone 24/7, which I don't understand, because if we did that, we wouldn't be productive enough to make any money and we wouldn't be able to afford to buy a phone. So they should give us control, better control over our notifications. But nonetheless, I go in and customize my notifications. Now the next section I go into is sound and haptics. There are some things that I just don't need my phone to do. Like, I don't need keyboard clicks turned on, and I don't need the lock sound to happen. And so those I toggle off right here. System haptics are okay. I don't mind some of those little vibrations, is essentially what they mean by haptics, because they don't have a vibrating motor. They have a haptic engine. It's different. It's premium. And so we make sure to go, or I make sure to go in and make these little adjustments and stuff like that in here. And by making those adjustments, I'm making my phone less distracting, not only to me as I'm using it, but to other people around me. And like I said, I always have my phone on vibrate, so I make sure that my vibrate on ring and vibrate on silent is turned on so I don't miss anything, because I want to make sure I get calls and stuff like that. I just don't want it to be a loud ringtone that disrupts everybody in the general vicinity. So the next thing I do is go into Do Not Disturb and set a schedule for Do Not Disturb, which I set from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Now I don't always, but I try to go to bed around 10 p.m. and if I'm not in bed at 10 p.m., I put my phone down and away at 10 p.m. I don't want my phone to be in my face up until maybe I'm laying in bed, which I do this all the time. I lay in bed, I'm on my phone, doing some more scrolling before going to bed, and then it takes me forever to fall asleep. Now, I don't know about the whole blue light thing and how the light of our phones affect us and stuff like that, but I know that looking at my phone and seeing, you know, whatever updates and checking Instagram and email and whatever else definitely affects my ability to fall asleep very quickly. So I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and I set a schedule so that I don't forget, because I will forget. So the schedule needs to be set so that it automatically happens. Now, I used to have the bedtime notification turned on, but I was never like doing it. I was never taking that bedtime serious. So of course, I just go to bed whenever I can, whenever I try to. So I have silent set to always. I have all calls from all contacts, so that makes sure that if one of my contacts calls me, like someone from my family, I'm not going to miss emergency calls and stuff like that, because I do have that allowed. And then I don't turn on any of the other options like Do Not Disturb while driving, because I don't know, I just haven't got there yet, but it's probably a good idea. Now, under screen time, this is a new feature that's going to show us our usage of our devices based on the apps and the different things that we use. I think this is a great new feature of iOS 12. I think it's fantastic. I make sure that it's turned on and that I also share across devices. Because for me, a device is a device is a device. If I'm on my iPhone or my iPad or whatever, I want all of that to be measured the same. I don't want to use my iPhone and be like, oh, I've reached what I feel is a limitation there, let's move over to my iPad and use that one until I want the bulk of it all kind of mixed together, and I want to be able to see the usage on all the devices in one place, which I think is extremely important. So under general, there are a couple things that I change. Under Airdrop, I want Airdrop to be visible by contacts only. Now, if you have other people in your life that use an iPhone, you can send and receive files to each other, such as photos that you just took and stuff like that. I absolutely love that feature. I love being able to take a picture and then quickly send it over to my wife. We have kids, and so I like that sharing ability. So having that turned on is great. I also love the fact that I can easily share between my own devices, sending files to my iPad, at the random times that I'm on a Mac, which I'm not currently, but being able to send images and stuff like that quickly to a Mac to include in some sort of, you know, graphic design that I'm doing, Photoshop, whatever. Fantastic features, and so I make sure to set that up for quick access. Now, Control Center is a pretty useful tool. That's when you swipe down from the top right-hand corner and you get a list of different icons and stuff like that here. Now, Control Center, you can go ahead and add some additional things there. What I add is Apple Home or Home, whatever you do want to call it, because I have a couple of Philips Hue light bulbs that are in our bedroom. Makes it really easy to turn those off. I found that using commands like saying to Google or to Siri to turn it off, and then having to deal with them responding, and people are trying to sleep, maybe my wife's already asleep, I just don't want those verbal cues or responses coming back from the devices. And so quick access to Apple Home so that I can turn those lights off is fantastic. Of course, I also add voice memos because I like to occasionally just make a quick voice memo. And then I also add low power mode because on those days where I use my phone so much that I know I'm not going to be able to make it through a day, and I don't have a charger near me, I'll put my phone in low power mode temporarily, and it's nice to be able to have that quick access in Control Center. Now under Face ID and Passcode, I mean, I love Face ID, it works really well. I do still wish that we had a fingerprint scanner, but I want to make sure that Face ID is not giving access and that I don't have access that I'm giving to things that I don't want. For example, I turn access when locked off to Siri because otherwise if your phone is locked, you can ask Siri questions. You could even ask Siri where I live. So if you find my phone, you can ask Siri where I live, and then Siri will give you my address. And I don't want that stuff happening. I don't want anything that Siri could potentially give out as far as information goes, even my phone number, my wife's phone number, whatever, when the phone is locked. So I turn that off. If I'm going to use Siri, I can unlock my phone, or it tends to still work if I'm using my AirPods and the phone is locked, I can use Siri. I don't typically use Siri too much because I'm just still too used to Siri not working that well. Siri is getting better, but it still is just a habit. And then also USB accessories. I turn off access to USB accessories because those devices that they have out there that you can plug in and copy your phone's contents and stuff like that, I just don't want somebody to be able to do that, to have access to my device. And typically I'm not using anything USB connected unless I have my phone in front of me. For example, it works when I use it in the car because I still have to use the dongle because my car doesn't have Bluetooth audio for music. It does for phone calls and whatnot, but it doesn't for music. So I'm still able to play music out even when the phone's locked. It doesn't affect that, but it will affect other devices that are connected, but I typically don't use them, so it doesn't really bother me. Scrolling down to iTunes and App Store, I don't want music, apps, or books to automatically download. I may download an app to my iPad, and I'm specifically going to use that app on my iPad. I don't need it to show up on my iPhone as well. Same goes with music and audiobooks. I typically stream all of my music, and I really don't use books or audiobooks because I use Kindle or the Audible app instead. And so having those things just automatically download. And these are also habits from the day of having phones with a smaller amount of storage space. I bought the 512 gig phone. I can store all the things on it. So I'm not really worried about this anymore, but I do like to kind of keep things in control. And if I have all those toggles turned on, things are going to become a mess. But of course, I do turn on updates so that I get those updates to different apps and whatnot. I want to make sure that all of my apps are staying up to date so that I don't become vulnerable or miss out on features that are cool. Now, the next step is turning off notifications for mail. Every time I get an email, I don't need a ding or a notification, and I absolutely do not like having a number over the top of my email icon showing me how many things need my attention. I've gotten to the place in life where those things provide an anxiety that I don't need, so I want those shut off. So I tap on notifications and I turn off all email notifications. Like I said with checking social media and whatnot, I go in and check my email periodically at my own time when I feel like I want to check email, not when every single ding or ping or whatever comes through. I'm not giving myself over to email anymore, and that starts by shutting off notifications. Now under voice memos, because earlier I did say that I like to use the voice memos app, I set that to lossless. I want the highest quality audio possible because you never know when you might want to include something in something else. For example, I've recorded a podcast episode on my iPhone. It was totally unexpected. Podcast ended up taking place between me and a friend. I pulled out my iPhone. I had it set to lossless quality, which meant that I had a better quality audio to start with. The fact that I've got larger capacity phone means I don't have to worry about compressed audio so much anymore. So I set it to lossless, and then I set clear deleted to after 30 days, which I think is what it is by default. Now under phone, because I have an iPad and sometimes have a Mac, I want calls on other devices to be set to off. Now, I think in certain circumstances this can be useful, but I don't necessarily like my calls to come through on all of my devices. When my phone rings, when somebody calls me, I don't want it showing up on my iPad and my Apple computer if I have one at the time. Of course, this doesn't affect your Apple Watch. If you're connected to your watch, that's going to show up on your watch. Even if your phone is away and you're using the LTE ability in your watch to receive a phone call, this doesn't affect that. But I don't want my phone calls to show up on my iPad because I may leave my iPad unattended, or I may leave it somewhere, and I don't want those phone calls popping up. I don't want my iPad just sitting there ringing all day long as I get phone calls. So I make sure to shut off that feature. It is useful in some instances. For example, if you want to be sending and receiving phone calls from your iPad, but for me, I really don't, and so I turn that feature off. Now, under messages, I recently set my messages to delete after 1 year. So I keep message history for 1 year, and of course I go in there and do a lot of cleanup, and eventually I'm going to set it to 30 days. I had the hardest time letting go of older messages, but I was constantly transferring messages between devices. The fact that we're sending photos and stuff, and if you're on iMessage with another Apple device, they're larger quality images, that was becoming to be quite a large chunk of storage used up on my device. And doing backups and restores to different phones was taking forever, so I just said, okay, let's cut it off at a year. And soon I will cut it off to 30 days because there really is no reason for me to keep that message history that long. I mean, I don't want to rely on my messages to be my memory anyways. So if there's something important in a text message, I can screenshot it or I can write it down to remember later. But I definitely set that to be a lesser amount so that I don't have to worry so much about it. And then I also set text message forwarding to my iPad because yes, it is easier to respond to text messages from an iPad with a keyboard than it is a phone. Of course, if I didn't have a keyboard for my iPad, that probably wouldn't be the case. But since I have the keyboard, it makes it really easy to send and receive text messages from the iPad. Now under camera, I go and have it preserve the camera mode settings. I like my camera to be where it was when I left off, so if I have it in video mode and then I go back to the camera later, it's still in video mode. I definitely turn on live photo because I found that those little live photos are good enough quality to use as small little B-roll clips in videos. And so if I get a nice little live photo every single time I take a picture, I have a little bit of B-roll to use in some sort of a creative way, and I like having that. And especially since I've got a lot more capacity and storage here, it makes it nice having that extra footage. I also set my camera to record at 4K 30. Even though it will go up to 4K 60, you just get a little bit better stabilization and stuff out of 30 frames per second. I'm typically not doing anything with that 60p footage, like making it slow motion or whatnot, so just having it at that 30 frames per second seems to be a good sweet spot for me. And of course, I'm always shooting at 4K so that I can future-proof my content. And then record slow-mo. I can choose between 120 frames and 240, so why not choose 240? And then of course, I leave the format set at high efficiency because I want that footage to be good quality, and I also don't want it to take up a ton of space. Now, Smart HDR, I leave that enabled because I want the camera to do its best to take the best quality photo. I like leaning on some of those features of the camera to get me the best quality image. If I really want control over the photos that I'm taking, I will grab my camera and shoot with my camera as opposed to my phone. When I use my phone, most of the time I want that worry-free photography experience. All right, so let's talk about Siri shortcuts. Siri shortcuts are fantastic. They give the phone a lot more functionality, and it makes Siri a lot more useful because now we can program Siri to do certain things. Now, one of my favorite ones is this basic one, and it really doesn't even do anything scientific. It just listens to whatever music is playing in the room, and if it is not Sandstorm by Jerad, then it will start playing Sandstorm by Jerad. So let's check this out.
This is not Sandstorm by Jerad. Playing Sandstorm by Jerad.
And then it will go ahead and open Spotify and start playing Sandstorm by Jerad. And if you don't find this funny, then whatever, it's funny to me, and that's all that matters. So there's some other things that I have, like do not disturb until I leave. That means it's going to actually put my phone into do not disturb mode and not allow notifications or anything to mess with me until I leave the location. When my location changes, it will come out of that. Now there's also some things that I have created as far as customizable goes, like playing certain music playlists that I have created already. Typically I use Spotify more, and Spotify, there isn't any way to do this yet without getting really creative to have it automatically play a playlist. So what I've done is used an app that actually syncs my playlist from Spotify over to Apple Music, which yes means I have to have a Spotify and an Apple Music subscription, but I already had those anyways, so I'm able to actually do that. This Spotify here, if I tap on this one, it will actually open up Spotify and take me to that playlist, and then I can hit shuffle play and start to play that. Now, I also take some flights from time to time. So when a flight departs, and I'll go ahead and show this one, when a flight departs, I want my phone to automatically send a text message to my wife saying that my flight is taking off and telling her that I love her, and then it puts my phone in airplane mode, but then it puts my phone, it turns the Wi-Fi on. So my phone is in airplane mode, but Wi-Fi is on because I want to be able to connect to Wi-Fi in the plane. And so all those things happen just simply by tapping this button or telling Siri the command that I've given Siri to automatically do all of that. And then I have one for when my flight arrives, which goes ahead and takes my phone out of airplane mode and then sends my wife a quick text message saying that I just landed. Typically, she knows that when we just land, once I grab my bags and get into an Uber or something like that, or a taxi, I'll give her a call and let her know how everything went. So this just automates that process and makes it extremely easy. And then for my kids, we absolutely love Perry Grip, who makes fun music for kids, just funny songs. Most of them are like meme related, but this will go ahead and open up that playlist and start playing it, which is an often request in my car, so this saves me a lot of time from having to go and look through my playlists and find their Perry Grip playlist. If you have kids, definitely introduce them to Space Unicorn. It's a game changer. All right, so of course we have those. Now I want to step into apps that are must-have apps. I have a list of those apps that are just absolutes for me, and some of these are cross-platform. Now, I'm often jumping between iPhone and Android, and so the apps that I use most often need to be cross-platform to work not only on the iPhone, but the Android phone. So I'll do my best to mention which ones are cross-platform. The first one is 1Password, which I use for copy and pasting my passwords, and some of my passwords are really long. These days we have to be careful. We have to make sure that we're using strong passwords so that we don't get hacked and get our information stolen. So it's really easy to go in and tap and copy a password to my clipboard, and then I can return to the app and paste it. Now this also works automatically if you are in an app and you have the password saved, or you're on a website, you can bring up that password using the 1Password keyboard add-on as well, which is just a fantastic feature. 1Password is both iPhone and Android compatible. So the next one is Evernote, and Evernote I use because I make a daily log. I make a daily log of my tasks and my schedule, things that I accomplished, things that made me happy during the day, things that didn't make me happy. I try to keep track of all those things because as I've gotten older, it's become more challenging for me to recall everything, memory fading. So I use Evernote, and Evernote is cross-platform. It's extremely easy to use. It's the best note-taking app that's out there, and so it's a must-have on all of my devices. AnyDo is also a good one. I take medication for a thyroid issue, and so I have that in here. I also have some other updates and some things that I want to have go off automatically. Some of them are recurring, which means I want them to happen again. All of these things you can do in the Reminders app on your phone, but the Reminders app on your iPhone is not cross-platform, so when I switch over to an Android device, I have to have 2 copies of my stuff in both places. So using AnyDo definitely helps me with that problem by being a cross-platform app that works on both iPhone and Android. Now the Moment camera has been kind of a game changer for me. I absolutely love the Moment camera because it allows me to shoot in manual mode and just achieve a lot more with my phone as far as the quality of my images go. Now I like to be able to take control over the camera, and make adjustments. And you know, not all the time do I just want it to be in auto mode. I know earlier I said I want my phone to be easy and automatic, but when I do want to take control, the default camera on the iPhone does not have like a pro mode like you get on some Android phones. So the moment camera works great, and it's also cross-platform, meaning that it's available on Android. And so I keep the moment camera available for those times when I really want to control the settings. And I'll talk more about moment camera probably in an app review, because I think it's a fantastic camera app. Snapseed is another app that I use constantly. It's a great image editor. It also, I think the thing that's probably like the game changer is that, so say you have an image like, I'm gonna go ahead and go to this image here of my knife and my coffee, and I can go in and use these different looks, or I can edit, or if I want to apply the same edit that I did to my last photo, I just tap on last edits, and it's going to go ahead and apply all those edits that I just had used, which is a total time saver if you're editing a lot of photos, several different photos. So Snapseed is a go-to app for me, definitely. Another one that I often use is Polar. Polar is a great photo editing application. You can come in here, grab your images, and make a lot of great changes to them. But there's a lot of customizations here in the Polar app, including filters and just really high quality stuff. It's a great application for editing photos. Now, earlier I talked about using Airdrop to send images and files and stuff like that between your different Apple devices. But if you want to send stuff between a PC and your iPhone, or an Android phone and an iPhone or whatnot, you need the Send Anywhere app, which is amazing. It's like Airdrop, but it's for your other devices, cross-platform. You can use it for free. I opted to pay for the premium version because I just think it was worth it. It's a great app. So all I have to do is tap on an item. I can tap on Send. It then shows me all of the devices that I have available to me that I can send it to. And it also gives me a code. So say, for example, you have a friend you want to send an image to, and they have the Send Anywhere app. All they have to do is enter the 6-digit code, and it authenticates and it pulls that file over, or they can scan the QR code. There's lots of really easy ways for you to send files across to other users. And so the Send Anywhere app is amazing. Now, it wouldn't be a list of apps unless I included Instagram. I use Instagram a lot. It's definitely my go-to social network because I like imagery, I like photos, videos, and stuff like that. So I like sharing in that way, and I like consuming other people's content in that way. So Instagram is definitely an app that I use quite often. You can see my username here at Jerad Hill. Feel free to follow me. And then also we have State of Tech here as well. And so as you can see, I use my Instagram with a variety of different Instagram accounts that I use, that I contribute to. And I just love the app. It works, it's great. It's a great way to share and stay connected with people. For weather, I use the Dark Sky app. I absolutely love the Dark Sky app. It's super simple, it's accurate. And the thing that I like about it most is the notifications that I get. For example, if it's about to start raining, it tells me so. It tells me maybe I should grab an umbrella. It also tells you when the rain is about to stop, which is great too, because I'm often traveling and moving around with photography equipment and stuff like that, or maybe I'm waiting for a chance when there's no rain so that we can go outside and get the shot. There's a lot of times when I've relied on this app to know when we were going to be able to get the shot, because it's so accurate. It's insanely accurate. And the Dark Sky app has just been fantastic, and it's cross-platform both on iPhone and Android. App in the Air has become my go-to app for keeping track of my flights and my travel schedules and all that stuff. Boarding pass, all that information. It's a fantastic app that gives you up-to-date information about your travels, and the apps that I used to use in the past are no more. App in the Air is what I'm using now, and it's absolutely fantastic. I just recently flew to Boston and back, had some connecting flights, had some delays, and the app did a great job of keeping me informed with everything that was going on. So App in the Air is my go-to app for knowing everything that I need to know about my travels, especially when it comes to flying places. Now, Spark Camera is a fantastic app. If you share to your stories like Instagram stories, Snapchat, Facebook, any of that stuff, this app actually allows you to create a story out of different shots. So as when you add a story to your Instagram, it becomes an individual story clip. Well, this camera lets you actually continue to create pieces of content within that one little clip, which I think is fantastic. So tap and record a little bit with the rear facing camera, switch to the front facing, record a little bit, and then switch it around. And then you can upload it and post all of that to your Instagram story. I think that's absolutely fantastic. It helps me be a better storyteller. I don't always remember to use it, but when I have something longer that I want to say or that I want to showcase, I use the Spark camera every time. I only wish that it was available on Android. Hopefully they'll bring it there soon. Okay, so now it's time to talk about accessories. Of course, one of the benefits of an iPhone is all the accessories that you can get for it and the different things to make it just a better all-around experience. Now, as far as the case goes, I often switch between two different cases. The one that's currently on my phone is the Spec Presidio grip case. I like having a little bit of grip on my phone because it's often that it's sitting maybe on my lap or on a surface, and I don't want it sliding around. I've got little kids who are always running around. I don't want it to get bumped and hit the ground. I don't want it to crash and get damaged. I like my phone to stay in good condition. So yes, this does add a little bit of thickness to the phone, but it's not much, and it makes it much easier to grip. When I'm not using this one, I'm using the basic Apple black leather case, which I also love. I love the feel of the case. I love the smell of the case. I know it's kind of weird, but it's an absolutely great simplicity, like simple case for your phone. And when you don't need that extra grip, when you don't need that extra corner protection, it's a great case to have on your device. Now, the Movi Gimbal is something that I've come to love. When that first came out, it was an absolute must-have accessory for my phone, and I'm just showing you some B-roll now because I don't have it set up. That gimbal, you put your phone in and it helps keep all of your video and stuff stabilized. It also has some cool features for shooting like time lapses and hyperlapses and all that stuff. It makes it so that you have extremely still and steady footage. It gives you a better grip for holding onto your phone for shooting video, because these phones have actually gotten so good at shooting video, but still the stabilization that they have in their sensors is not perfect. It's not the best. It's not stabilizing everything. So I go and use the Movi all the time whenever I'm shooting stuff with my phone, and some of the content that I shoot with my phone makes it into videos that we use for commercial purposes. So I definitely enjoy having that tool with me because it's so small and I never know when I'm going to need it, so I usually take it with me everywhere. Now, for keeping my phone charged, because I use my phone a lot during the day. I mean, right now my phone has a pretty decent amount of charge, but on a normal day I can make it through a day with my phone, but there are times when I'm almost dead 3/4 of the way through the day. So I make sure to have a fast charger in my truck. It's an Aki fast charger that has fast charge version 3, I believe, which works really well with some of my Android devices. And it also charges the iPhone really fast. And now in my office, I also have, and I'll show you some B-roll of this right now, I also have an Aki Charging Hub that has all sorts of different cables coming out of it. So I've got my lightning cable right here. I've got, believe it or not, a USB, a mini USB, not a micro, but a mini, because there is one device that I still use that requires that. USB Type-C, all of that stuff, and so having all of that available and easy for me to charge my phone, I can quickly top off here. The wireless charging, yes, that definitely works, but I just haven't found it to be as fast as plugging in quickly and getting a little bit of a boost there from a quick charge. The Aki Charging Hub has 2 fast, like really fast charging ports, and then it has, the one that I use has 4 more charging ports that are not low power or medium, they're average power. They're going to charge a device still pretty quickly, just not as fast as the quick charge. So those are my go-to accessories that I often use for my iPhone XS. So I hope that you like this video. I wanted to talk about how I set up my phone. I know it's a little bit of a longer video, but I wanted to talk about how I set up my phone, some of the features that I change, because we each use our devices differently, and I think it's really cool to learn from others. I've watched a couple of these videos from other people and found what they had to say pretty interesting, and I wanted to share about how mine is set up. So if you like this video, let me know. I'll definitely do one for my iPad if you liked it, and then also maybe even for my other technology, my other devices that I use in my life, how I have them set up. So let me know what you think down in the comments. If there's a game-changing feature or setting or something like that that I didn't use that you use, tell me in the comments. I want to know about it because I'm all about getting the most out of my devices. I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to do here with Stata Tech, is share and talk about all of that with all of you. So I'll be down in the comment section hanging out. Would love to chat with you there. Make sure to leave one and subscribe to the channel here if you like the video. And I hope to see you back here soon on Stata Tech. Take care.